Hello, and welcome to the Other Team's Tunes Tuesday, a weekly series that discusses music and matters with queer artists you love. I'm your host, Maud Mosley. My pronouns are they, them, and joining me this week is Toronto-based R&B hip-hop duo TRP.P. It's so wonderful to have you here. Would you two like to introduce yourselves?
My name is Trust, pronouns he, him.
I'm Phoenix, she, her.
Together we're trippy.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, it's so great to have you here. And, I'm really excited because you've been releasing lots of music recently, and I just really want to dive into it. So your most recent release was Strong, a single that speaks to systemic violence, highlighting issues such as, the idea of Black on Black crime and the higher rates of police brutality and incarceration that Black communities face. The accompanying music video presents the personal impact of systemic violence, on one's mental health, and together questions the idea of what it means to be strong, what does strength look like, and how does it relate to survival. The music video for Strong ends with someone, coming to the apartment and checking in on the individual that's kind of seen struggling throughout the piece. What drove you to want to end the music video with that sign of hope and community care?
First of all, I just want to say shout outs to you because you got it.
Yeah. Like, I'm so glad that it resonated in that way.
Yes. Listening to you describe the video, I'm like, oh my God.
I know. It feels great.
So shout outs to you. Yeah. My bad. I just had to say.
Yeah.
You were saying, love?
I feel like what drew us to end it that way was we really wanted to show Black men being there for each other, especially in that time of crisis, because there is that sense of community there, that brotherhood, and especially like me identifying as trans male too, like that is actually my homie too. So like that is real brotherhood being displayed on camera, and I'm so grateful for all the cisgendered male friends I have, or any like all I'm grateful for all of my community, but just of course it resonates and hits hard for me to see that on camera, but I felt like just in general for people to see that, I think that needed to be displayed. But
yeah, well said. And if there's anything to add on my part, like watching that and like kind of directing a little behind the scenes, knowing that not every Black story has to end in trauma. Like if we're gonna talk about it, let's talk about it, but not every day like trauma, just have some time to be like, okay, after all of this happened, after everything I experienced in this day, somebody was there for me. Let's write movies like that. Let's write books like that. Let's make shows like that. And that's just us kind of manifesting that into the atmosphere.
Definitely. I love that. And, you speak of directing this piece. So when you were brainstorming the music video, did you always want it to end with that, caring twist, or were there alternate endings that you had originally thought of?
There were definitely, I'm not gonna lie, I was on my Jordan Peele with this one. There was gonna be a few different alternative endings. Like we were gonna have just, even though I'm like, not everyday trauma, one of the endings was like, okay, let's have some kind of like police interaction. And then we were like, okay, we have to think about how this is gonna be received by the community and the message that we want to share. Do we want to end it off on trauma when we're talking about the stigmas around that same trauma? Do we want to end it? I think one of the endings was like, you don't open the door. Like it was like, oh, who's at the door? Like mystery theater, right?
There was a few. There was one where I would be like ready to attack at the door. There was a few different alternative endings, but I'm happy with where we landed because I'm not really an actor anyway. Like
I'm not really a director. So we really made it work.
But it was fun. It was a great day, and I'm happy with what we did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible music video, especially, I mean, both of you are saying, you're not a director and you're not an actor, but it looks like just an incredibly, well thought out professional piece. So both of you were clearly, bringing your artistic talents in multitudes to what was going on. And, speaking to that idea of, community and what you wanted to represent and the message you wanted to send, from people who have watched it, have you been hearing that that's been resonating, that people have been taking away that message?
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of great feedback, and especially like being Black, dropping Black related content during Black History Month. The response was actually pretty diverse. Like, you're always going to get the people who are like, oh, this hit home, like this really felt, but then having allies and individuals who aren't people of color or of the Black community, or of the queer community being like, wow, that was really powerful. And that not really being our initial intention, like we wanted to share the message, and the story is one that we both share and personally experience, but seeing people respond with like, understanding from communities that don't experience that every day, that was what kind of solidified to me that this was an important song and an important visual, because sometimes people really don't, like Trust says, like, for those who need scenarios, how about you imagine this? It's like some people really don't understand it until it happens to them. And so for people to not have to experience what we go through, whether it be daily, through work, through our own family members, like, awkward social situations, seeing this piece and being like, wow, I understand and I get it. That was not expected, but it was so appreciated. So that really resonated with me, for real.
Yeah, you said
I said it?
it.
All right.
Yeah, it's incredible that, you got such a strong response, to the piece, and it definitely did deserve that. And I hope, you keep hearing messages on it. But, I want to also talk about the single that you released before Strong, because it takes a very different perspective. The single and music video released prior was Never Leavin', whose lyrics and video, both celebrate joy, with the video taking place at a roller rink and shows, people hanging out and dancing. So, as an artist, how do you approach music that speaks to trauma and violence, and music that's, centers joy differently? And do you find that you tend to seek balance of those themes in your work?
Good question. I feel like definitely seeking the balance, but also not even thinking about placing limits on what we choose to express, and just expressing how we feel in the moment. Like that. So like writing Strong was like literally around the time of like the George Floyd incident, and then here at home there was DeAndre Campbell and
Regis.
thank you, Regis. And so it was just very heightened, and like we just had to get that out in the moment. But with Never Leaving, it was like, I feel like experimenting with different sounds today. And so we were just like, so sometimes this really depends on the moment of where we're at, on the day or in the moment where we choose to create. Sometimes it's me just creating a beat, sending it to her and seeing how she feels, or sometimes it's her coming to me with an idea of lyrics or a beat sometimes, because she's a producer too sometimes.
We'll edit that part.
So it really depends, but yeah, I think like the balance, it's achieved naturally. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. And I know, there haven't been a lot of opportunities to perform recently, but do you find there's a difference when it comes to performing, as far as maybe which pieces you feel more comfortable performing more frequently, or kind of the aftermath of the performance based on, the songs that you chose to select?
When we're getting ready for a show, the first thing we do is, well, like, besides like get excited that we've been booked to play live, we look at the city that we're playing in, and we kind of like try to see, okay, like what's the demographic here? What are the popular, things that are about the city, so that we can kind of curate the show to that demographic. But I find that once we get there, they're like so chill and so cool, so excited to see us. We're like, okay, you know what? Let's just do what we normally do our thing, and like just have a good time. So we try to be somewhat strategic with it, but honestly, most of the places that we've played, if not all of them, I can't even think of one place where we've played and we've been like, oh, that was weird. Everywhere we've gone, we're like, oh, nobody knows us, nobody's gonna really like us, and then it's like they love us. So we'll always do like our singles, and then depending on the crowd response, we might try a new, like maybe a B-side to one of our songs, or like something we'll work in Trust's live production. Yeah, we start curated, and then we just get loose with it.
Yeah, we'll have a set planned, and then who knows where what happens that night. But
Exactly.
generally we stick to the plan.
Sounds like a really fun time. I personally can't wait for the opportunity to see you live, since I haven't had that privilege yet. But with that in mind, we've been talking about lots of these different music videos. And in both of the videos that we've discussed, you highlight local businesses such as, Greenport Store and Retro Rollers Inc., both local businesses that don't inherently serve the music scene. Do you feel like that speaks to the community support that you receive both in and outside of the music scene?
I would say so. We actually fell into the roller scene. Like, it wasn't intentional. It was, hey, we love this place. Shout outs to Pursuit OCR. That's actually where we shot the video.
Yes.
And shout outs to Will and the whole staff. They were amazing. They made a roller rink for us to shoot in. So it's actually like an adult obstacle course.
Yeah.
And during the initial lockdown, Pursuit, we weren't able to have the good old fun time, because it's a lot of running around, touching things, and breathing, right? The last thing you want to do during a pandemic. It's not really pandemic appropriate activities. So while they were shut down, just speaking to Will and, checking in on the staff and things like that. And he mentioned Retro Rollers was a business that occasionally would be able to come, and he could do like one-on-one lessons in this back area. So very cool guy, and thinking on his feet, and boom, here's a small business supporting another small business. And we're like, how can we support two small businesses at once, right? And as we listened to the song more and more, we realized, okay, you know what? This song is about finding a community and being there for that community when everything else is gone. Like the song starts off like, we don't need nobody telling us we can't, like, obviously, like, mandates, health and safety, okay, cool, but it doesn't mean we can't. It just means we have to find a different way. And after all of that, we're never leaving. So we're like, okay, there's something here. And the more we met the individuals who did roller skate and talked to them, a lot of people picked it up when the pandemic started. So here you have these individuals who really are never leaving. They are going to do this for, they're going to adapt and grow, and they're going to be here forever. And that was inspiring to us, especially as artists. Sometimes the climate feels like you have a limited time and a limited window, but good music lasts forever. So if we can support a small business and do a visual that kind of works as a message and also a little bit of promotion, why not?
Right.
And the same thing with Greenport. We wanted to highlight the disparities between the Black community and the white community in cannabis culture. Why is one community penalized and criminalized so hard while another is literally making millions off of it? And so we actually asked around, and we're like, well, who are the Black people making money in this cannabis business? And somebody introduced us to Vivian Wilson, and she's actually the first Black Canadian Black Canadian woman to own her own cannabis business. So here we are with literal Black history during Black History Month, singing a Black ass song about being Black. And we're like, how else can we support but do this video shoot? So that's a long roundabout way of saying that's how we support, and that's why we support, because it's what resonates with us already.
It happens to align. It really has. We've been fortunate and blessed where it happens naturally, and hopefully it continues to grow. Like, we only want to continue to support locally and support even more Black businesses and things like that. And I think that relationship is powerful, and I just want to explore it even more.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And, would you recommend to other emerging artists, other artists trying to grow their local scene to get more involved, with local businesses, find their way outside of just like music communities?
Absolutely. Yeah. If we've learned anything from this pandemic, it's that everybody needs everybody. And it's not to say you need to go outside of your comfort zone to help everyone. And like my mom always says, I'm sure you're a mom because Jamaicans with their sayings, but like, you can't pour from an empty cup. So it's not about going around and spreading yourself thin, but it's about just turning to your left and right and seeing who you can hold hands with to hold everybody up during these times. And those were two communities or two businesses that got hit especially hard. But I think a lot of artists are trying to find their own brand or their own sound, their own look. So maybe they're not thinking really outside of what they enjoy or what they already are comfortable with. But I encourage artists, get uncomfortable, go to places that you wouldn't usually go, talk to people in businesses that you wouldn't normally, associate with, and find out what you have in common. And more times than not, there are so many things in common that you wouldn't even know. And then it turns into a partnership that turns into a potential friendship, which turns into support from communities you wouldn't otherwise be able to tap into. It's really about spreading out as opposed to reaching up. And we can all reach up together the more we spread out.
Yeah, that is such a beautiful message of community to end on. I really, really appreciate you saying all that. I couldn't agree more. And that's really the spirit of these conversations as well, is making those connections. So thank you so much for joining me on this week's Tunes Tuesday. If you would like to learn more about TRP.P, find any of the things that we talked about today, the music videos, pay attention to their social media for upcoming releases. You can find those at the link below, and TRP.P will be playing us out.
It's my strength. They harassing me for Black history, asking me how I feel about having 28 days. For the 28 ways they gonna ask if my hair is real. All they know about Black is we got our own crime. Yeah, they think them stats legit. Man, Black on Black, so whack on whack. Who the fuck came up